Hey everyone, this is David Jones with Costa. I bring you Octavio Barajas, Professor of Ethnic Studies and current Vice President of the Academic Senate. How are you doing today, Octavio?
Doing well, David. Doing really good. Thank you for having me this afternoon.
Well, let's start you off with a softball pitch. What's your favorite food truck?
Let's Food truck would be El Sonora. El Sonora has some really scrumptious tacos al pastor, and so I get those. It's one of my favorite ones. Really picky about tacos, so I really like the way they combine. They're pretty generous on the amount of meat they put on their tacos, and then the quality of the tortilla makes a difference as well. And all the fixings, they're very generous on giving you like grilled onions and just delicious, very spicy chile. So that's a game changer for me when you could bring all that together in that scrumptious morsel. That's El Sonora. That's in Bakersfield, California, right here.
I'll be checking that out. I love tacos. What's the main reason you chose teaching, Octavio?
It's because of the empowerment that comes with education, seeing that transformation that could take place with the education and ethnic studies or other kind of topics. From my personal experience as well, seeing making those connections with faculty who really will enliven those lessons and really go into curriculum that's relevant, culturally responsive. It speaks to experiences that are applicable here in the Central Valley, making those connections that way. I think it does a lot to make it hit home. So for me, that was an empowering process for me to experience as a community college student. And I also see it, within the growth that could take place within a semester in the students' articulation of content. So I would say it's the empowerment process that comes with education.
Excellent.
Mhm.
Tell us, what courses do you teach?
I teach social justice studies. It's introduction to ethnic studies and social justice, and also teach American Indian studies and Chicano studies. And I've also taught Black American studies. So we've also had other courses in ethnic studies that I taught. It's the whiteness course as well. So whiteness studies. And we have Asian American studies in ethnic studies as well. But we've had an adjunct fulfill those teaching responsibilities. But those are some other courses that we also offer within the ethnic studies department, or have offered.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting. What's your proudest non-teaching accomplishment?
Non-teaching accomplishment, I would say working with community in the Central Valley, doing different kind of work, whether it's like charity work, but more recently it's an organization that I've been involved in. It's called the Juarez Society, La Sociedad Juarez, and they're over a century old, and they've been around for a while, and they're a mutual aid society. So I've been trusted with leadership position there by a community of elders. The membership is mainly 70 years and older, the majority of the membership. So it's a lot of older elders from the community who've been around a lot, retired. And so it's being a service to the community to make sure that organization continues to thrive. We just celebrated 111 years this past December. So it's awesome to see younger generation coming into the fold. We've been recruiting more members, and so it's awesome just to re-enlive this organization that had its heyday like in the 70s. And we, to this day, we have memberships outside of the Central Valley, in Washington, Oregon, Texas. So it's been amazing to see the celebrations that we've been able to have online because of COVID, and just the energy that's been coming into play to keep it moving forward. So it's awesome to see folks that are willing to do that work right now.
That's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
What is something most people do not know about your past?
I would say I'm an underwater basket weaver. No, I'm just kidding. I would say um, Yeah, I really enjoy boxing, and that was something I was involved in as a as a teenager. So that was an amazing part of my formidable experience as a teenager. Brought in a lot of discipline. Was kind of the kind of mentorship that I needed at that point in my life, and making community ties. I was a boxing program in my community that brought many youth together to do very positive things outside of the boxing. So boxing was the space that was conducive of learning other kinds of principles, of being surrounded by positive male role models. So that was very important at that time.
Excellent thing for a teen to be getting involved in. What is your watch it 1,000 times movie?
Oh man, it would be this film called Saving Private Perez, which is a pun there with Saving Private Ryan. It's a satirical movie, and yeah, I can watch that. It's one of those things that just to lessen the load, laugh a bit. And so that would be my go-to. I haven't seen it in a while. I'm glad you bring that up. I gotta return to it again.
I'm gonna have to check it out too. I love satires.
Mm-hmm.
What's your late work policy?
Communication. Communication is key, especially right now. I know we've been encouraged by the district to be supportive, especially students who are testing positive of COVID. So I stress and try to get that clarity from students and try to make myself approachable. So communication, let me know what's going on. I encourage students and try to be, less intimidating of an action from students. Sometimes could be intimidated professors. I understand that. So try to do things that to try to level that communication field to try to create, just a professorship that is approachable. So communication, late work. If there is late work, I just want to know what's going on. If it's COVID related, depending on the circumstances, would determine that flexibility.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What about your absence policy?
Oh yeah, that returns as well. There's students right now who some because they're ill with COVID and haven't been, communicating either. So that's kind of hard. So the reasons for the absence, what's going on? Again, what's taking place? Why are students absent? And taking it forward from there. Again, I think it's similar to my late work policy. It's a circumstance. What's going on? Is it COVID related? These kinds of things. Is it not? What else is taking place? So I really appreciate communication, and I stress that in the classroom. Now that I'm finally back in the classroom, to make that clear that regardless of what's going on, for students to keep me in the loop. And if they're, just nowhere to be found and absent all entirely, day one absence, obviously a drop or something else, if it's constant, then I really reach out then after to figure out what's going on. And if I don't hear from students, then it's a drop.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What is one piece of advice to your students?
I would say never to say no to yourself. And I use that kind of in context when I get approached about, and I really like to encourage conversations with students about what are you going to do after COS? What are the plans? And many do have plans of transferring. And so I encourage students to apply to many institutions, and I encourage that. And some may be hesitant. I get hesitancy at times, and I encourage to apply first and then tell those institutions no after they, admit you. And also share my story as well in terms of transferring from the Central Valley and getting admitted to urban or universities in urban settings, a lot larger, like LA and the Bay. And I really didn't want to go. So I wanted a small town environment like Davis, where I was admitted to. But I encourage that even then, when that happens, go to the recruitment day, get a feel for the campus. And that was a game changer, my own experience. So I share my experience to students to see if they could, you could find that as maybe motivation to continue with the application process and maybe applying to schools that they may not feel 100% about in the moment, but just to actually have that more active decision-making power thereafter, maybe declining those offers if when given.
That's a great piece of advice. And sometimes they find out the school they wanted to go to after visiting is not the school they really wanted to go to.
Yes.
So yeah, it's good to apply around.
Mm-hmm.
Do you own any pets?
No, I currently don't. I've had a Rottweiler in the past, my Xochitl, that was years ago. Hopefully in the future, I will have a pet, but currently I don't.
Okay. On Sunday, would you rather hike a mountain or kill zombies?
Yeah, maybe after killing zombies, I'd go on a hike in the mountains. So, yeah, I think, yeah, the idea of taking a hike at the mountains, it's really nice. Trying to get more of that outdoor experience. But so I think I'm more inclined for that.
Awesome. Do you have a favorite recent teaching experience?
Well, recent, as I mentioned, I'm back in the classroom, and that's changed things. Was, at first, kind of just mixed feelings about the idea of being back in the classroom. That was a part of it. And then getting the instructional rust off after not being in the classroom for 2 years. And there is some like technical challenges as well with it seems like a lot of updates needed to take place with the technology. But
right.
After all of that, it's been great. It's been great. I've had some students, just also with the same kind of experiences, mixed feelings. But we've have arrived, getting back into the flow. And one student in particular was just kind of was having some challenges with the content. In ethnic studies, we talk about race, racism. We talk about a lot of topics that are very important. And there's one student was challenged by the content that we were focusing on, and was kind of shut off. And I noticed that. And so I had the opportunity to make those connections with the student, and the student has arrived and is way more engaged now after that kind of interaction. So it's been positive. It's been positive to see that, that kind of that breakthrough has been we have arrived at now to better understanding and are seeing this student more engaged in the class than that moment. So that's I think that's an inspiring one for me to see that from the student.
That's fantastic. It's what we're aiming to do.
Mm-hmm.
Are you a do it now or wait until the last minute kind of person?
I'm trying to become more of a do it now person. And so the wait to the last minute, I think that is something I kind of a both, but I've been making a lot more, transitions and doing it now, because it's one of those things with so many things that are taking place simultaneously. That's like the mode that needs to happen right there. Yeah.
For a long weekend, where do you go?
Outdoors, changing it up. So being connected, via Zoom and technology and in the office space and that kind of thing, it just really yearned to be outdoors. So it might not be that nice trip that I would like to take, maybe to the, forested area in the mountains or the coast. But for me, hey, stepping outdoors, it's a easy minimum for me. They're doing that, and looking forward to, doing some community work. We're going to start a community garden here in my neighborhood soon. So looking forward to that. So that would be kind of like my getaway there that I look forward to partaking into more recently.
It sounds pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
What other career would you pursue if you had the time?
If I had the time, another career, it would be doing community work, working on issues of equity in the community. In the past, I've had, outside of teaching, I was working for the American Heart Association, doing preventative health measures. So that was very rewarding, and doing primarily targeting the African American community and the Mexican Tejano community in Texas. So that would be kind of something I would be inclined to return to, doing that kind of community work that is addressing equities in the Central Valley. Mm-hmm.
Texas, that's quite a shift. What's your favorite anxiety reliever?
The favorite anxiety reliever, outside of like maybe doing some stretching and that kind of thing, I think would be the drive. More recent right now, so I'm commuting from Bakersfield to Visalia to teach in person. But that drive is pretty relaxing. Like, I don't know, it allows me to like get connected and listening to some songs. There might be some singing going along with that nice. Too. But it's just kind of, it's almost like ritualistic, if you will. That drive to get to campus, it's like it's going to take maybe a little bit more than an hour to arrive. So it's just a process of, and it's the Central Valley landscape, seeing the farmland, and just seeing the day take place on the road pretty early, before 7 and stuff. So just seeing also like the sun come up, it's really nice. So for me, that kind of is it's a reliever.
Driving at that when the sun's just coming up is gorgeous. I agree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What is one inanimate object you would take to a deserted island?
Oh man, it might not be the most practical thing, but I'll take like a boombox. Going back to the 1980s hip hop culture, it would be maybe the boombox, LL Cool J. So yeah, I think again, I need that music. I need that music. It's very important.
What's your favorite thing about your job?
Being able to connect with students. I think that's the key thing there, to learn more about the Central Valley through their experiences. So that's a huge thing in my assignments, is to write those experiences in of how they understand the various topics that we're covering. So it's to really get to see the Central Valley through their eyes. So that's I think that's an awesome part of my job.
Fantastic. Office decor. Are you a minimalist or a maximalist?
So
red all over your face. I can see
it. Well, right now I made a transition. I was in Kern, now I'm in Sycamore, and I made that transition like during the pandemic. So I have a lot of things that I haven't unpacked yet, but I have so much posters, so many like pieces of art that I want to put up, and I haven't had that chance yet. So I'm definitely gonna step it up and do the most in putting up. Have my bobbleheads up. I have like Dodger bobbleheads. So have many more that I haven't brought into the office yet. But for sure, yeah, I'm gonna hang up the kitchen sink when I get that chance.
Nice. Mm-hmm. What is the biggest obstacle you would remove for students if you could?
I think I need to take Marla's class on magic to get that magic wand and just do away with COVID. Like COVID be gone. You learn, if I could learn that would be it. That obstacle. But no, there's other obstacles in terms of making OER, making that stuff. There's a lot of things that are accessible and to address different kinds of obstacles. I think one that comes up often with students is childcare. There's students who are not parents themselves, but are responsible for other family members. So this is something that comes up. Those are things that I see that are barriers in the communication that I've had with my students. And so I think that would be one of I think that's a major one that has surfaced up semester after semester. But I think also in context of the pandemic, this is one thing where students are also taking care of siblings who aren't going to school for whatever reason. and they're responsible. And so bringing, their younger sister or brother to school isn't an option right now. Mhm.
Yeah, that's an easy one for people to overlook, is siblings and stuff that they still got to care for, even if they don't have kids of their own.
Yeah. Yeah. In some
what's
cases, even parents and stuff too.
right? Oh, yeah, true. What's the best thing about being a Costa member to you?
I think it's being able, like straight up, like connecting with you, David, Marla, Christina, other members, that have been really supportive, really cool. And I think also just coming from the ethnic studies tradition of and in alignment with working class, right? And what does a union represent? So that's like the larger significance of Costa. So a variety of things. So, but along that line of thought, is that's what Costa represents for us here at the district.
Excellent. Well, thank you for your time, Octavio. Everyone, you now know Octavio.
Thank you, David. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And we'll see you around the campus. Keep up the good work in Academic Senate and those students in ethnic studies. It's an important subject.
Thanks. We'll do, David. And you too, man. And congrats with the fact, coming in for the following year for Academic Senate and mathematics as well.
Happy to serve.